Yeah. All right. You able to see us? Okay. So, good evening, everyone. We are currently now doing a special live broadcast at 123 RF New Event Space. So, this week we have a special event going on. On my right is Mr. Dameon Green. He came all the way from New York. So, he's a blockchain expert. And probably I'll get Dameon to introduce yourself about your background and why you're here in Malaysia this time.
Sure. So I came to Malaysia to help the guys here at 123 Ref with the blockchain Ethereum training. So in New York, the blockchain and cryptocurrency is just huge. Everything's exploding, and the communities there is so much better than it is out here in the Far East. And starting a community, gaining interest in creating new projects, it all starts with education. And so I was really on board with coming out here and putting on the training and kind of leveraging what I learned in New York and learned in creating projects and my expertise in software. So this is something that I'm very excited about. It's actually my first time being out in the Far East, so
Okay.
I'm enjoying that as well.
Okay, so have you been to other places like Singapore or anywhere before, or this is the closest you get?
Actually, I've never even been to Singapore as well, so it starts with Malaysia. Funny fact, I was actually offered a job out here like 20 years ago, but
Okay.
like the timing and logistics didn't work out. And so it's funny how life just happens and I end up in Malaysia,
Okay, yeah.
It's great. It's great to be here. I'm learning. I enjoy the food. I love rice. I love the meats. I love the spices. Everything is,
So all the spicy stuff, not a problem at all for you?
not a problem.
Okay.
I'm enjoying it. So, I'm lucky that I have full 2 weeks. That's a good time to explore and kind of see a place.
Okay, so let's go straight to the topic today. So I'm a data scientist, all right. So my background is software development. So I did a lot of things like you probably never heard of them: Lotus 123, DBase, Turbo Pascal, C, C++, that sort of stuff. So maybe I would like to get some of your opinion. Is how does somebody who has just programming background, but even with blockchain, those things like solidity, the tokens, and all sorts of stuff, it's just overwhelming. So probably can you give us like ELI5, explain like I'm 5-year-old, a broad overview about blockchain? Yeah.
Okay, so the blockchain generally works on the idea of decentralization. So the way we normally build apps, databases, and technology is generally centered upon central control, storage in a database, and kind of, we have this overseer role where we kind of make sure things meet security standards. With the blockchain, it's kind of going back toward peer-to-peer and like self-governing.
Yep.
And so with that, the entire world is open, because the first thing, I think most entrepreneurs think of how can we decentralize everything, right? So they start with the things that are common to them, with the platforms and apps that they use, and they think, well, how do I decentralize this? Or maybe decentralize a part of it. And so when it comes to the blockchain, it's kind of challenging because it's actually a very technical thing when you think of how transactions are formed into blocks and cryptography. And I think the best way to go about it is to, watch a few videos, talk to people who know maybe more than you, but also start to look at the projects. And once you start to get interest in projects, you'll look at more and more, and you'll see commonality in kind of the technical aspects of where this network is going, that network is going, and then you kind of track which ones are successful, and you kind of see where it's going from there. But there's a lot of information, but it's such a broad topic. Like I come from a background of different parts of software, going from QA, project management, even sales and business development, and eventually going back into coding, because I think that when you get that granular knowledge, you kind of really understand what's possible. And,
so you're someone like who likes to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, I love to get my hands dirty, but I also love the ideas. And I think that instead of looking at it as what I don't know, I use it as a strength of really understanding the customer, the product, what's possible, and how to kind of mobilize all these different groups of people to make something successful. Okay. And I think that's really what I look for.
So you're definitely still a builder at heart, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so in data science or in big data, people always compare data is the new oil, data is the new electricity. Now, right. in the world of blockchain, is there something like that? Like, do you guys make any analogy that helps people to understand? Or I heard people talk about blockchain is like when internet or HTTP just came out 20 years ago. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, you can actually say we actually say it's the new internet. The new internet. You can also compare it to like the tech boom, and we say what's happening in the next year or two is it's another tech boom. Hopefully, we don't have the bust. But,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
But maybe we do. But it's really what survives from that.
Yeah.
We look at what survived from 2000, what survived from 2008. But I think everyone's excited because I think there's just so much more possibility of what's to be discovered. The analogy I like is kind of the social network. So you look at Bitcoin, maybe you think of it as the Friendster or the MySpace, and then you look at Ethereum, maybe it's Facebook. But then Facebook wasn't the end. There's an Instagram, and then there was at one point there was a Tumblr that come along, and then there's and then we have Snapchat, and they're all different. And we have Twitter. They're all different purposes. So some of them still. I mean, MySpace isn't really around. It's kind of there. But the others are there, and they all kind of have their purpose. And so if you think of cryptocurrencies, you can think of Bitcoin as a store of data, as a inspiration of what's possible, Ethereum as to what's possible as a platform. And if we take tokenization seriously, what can we do with Ethereum, and then what's next? What can we scale? I think that we're looking at scaling and what can we do about faster transactions. And I think there hasn't been a winner from that yet, but there's a lot of interest.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so my next question for you will be, what are the current market challenges? What are the current market challenges in terms of the development? So especially like when they are coming from a technical background. So for business guys, they are probably thinking about the regulations when they want to do ICOs, and we know that there are a lot of backstories about ICO. But I'm more concerned, our audience is more concerned about the technical part. So how do we technical or software web developers or even mobile developers to embrace blockchain and to begin the development, to learn?
Well, I think you start with an open mind, knowing that what you know isn't what you're going to know when you end up on the other side, or you go through the next door. I think you start with, do we raise funds, or do we test out an idea on a blockchain that everyone's familiar with? And is our final solution a blockchain that no one's seen before, right? Which may be the truth, or do we start a project on basically one blockchain and then end up on another, or are we partnering and side chaining another blockchain? So I think it starts with a lot of research and figuring out what you want to do. I think the big risk is maybe committing to a framework or network or even a huge team without doing the proper testing. As far as testing the idea out and making sure it's viable. So I think in a good way, the tech part kind of fuses with the business part, because you can't, we don't want to marry a set of a stack and just have to throw everything out at once, or say, oh, we're stuck with this even though it's not optimal or it doesn't work because we've committed money. So I think the whole idea of testing out what works, really finding the market, really finding the user base. And it is up to us to make the thing work anyway. Right. It's up to us to make it work. And it's also okay to say we don't have the answer, the answer that we want. And in 2 years we may have an answer, and it may be completely different than what we think.
Okay, so towards the end, I'll probably get a bit of your input about just the different types of tokens, because we all know that blockchain is not just about cryptocurrency. It's not Bitcoin, like you said earlier. It's just one of the successful use case or successful case of a cryptocurrency using blockchain. Now, what are the different types of tokens, and how do we use blockchain and these tokens in other industry apart from fintech or cryptocurrencies?
Okay, so you generally have the fungible tokens, which are, as a side effect, currency or stores of value. So then you have ones that are utilities, so they could be used as some type of reward, some type of onboarding bonus. Even you can go into security tokens that are dividends, or they could have some equity, or they could be an equity multiple or a fraction of equity. So, and then you even can go as far as collectibles. So if you think of the CryptoKitties project, that's basically the 721 standard, which is non-fungible. So you don't use it to pay for goods, you use it as a tradable collectible that you hope, and generally it's worth more later at some time because it's a limited edition. So with the structure of that, there's actually a lot more that we can do as one token that holds a set of data, right? And it's a specific token attached to a digital or physical asset.
Yep.
And so we're just like scratching the surface with what we can do in terms
we're
of
barely scratching the surface.
you know, I actually think that there's some use cases that we've tried, the normal fungible, divisible tokens, and they may be better with non-fungible tokens that we don't divide. And so I think the next year, I think we're actually really exploring the idea of what type of token. Right now, you know, everything that I come across and people that I meet, I think that conversation is being had a lot in the beginning. Do we need this type of token versus that type of token? And you know, even further, I'll even go further. Is an ICO worth? Is it what we should do? Right? Should we do some different kind of onboarding program, a different airdrop, or you know, some other kind of format? Because it just the model doesn't. It's not a one size fits all.
Yep.
So.
Okay. All right. So before we end this interview, thanks for all the inputs and thanks for all your advices. Now, just one thing, if you can give our audience a little bit of advice where they really want to learn blockchain, so what is the first step that they should do? I mean, something that's more different other than, you know, pick up Ethereum or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it obviously starts with education, but I think, you know, when you talk to people who are experienced in the field, and they don't have to be fancy titles, but maybe, you know, there's someone who knows more about crypto than you. There's, you know, of course there's YouTubes and there are courses, but I think you take one potential path and you think, well, what if I learn this, you know, learn more about this because this piques my interest. I think the best way to learn something is to actually be really interested in it. And if you're interested, take a simple part of blockchain, or one, instead of starting broad, which we tend to do, like you want to learn about cars, you learn about cars. No, how about you take the very specific thing, let's say you're interested in dividing real estate assets or something. So maybe look at how we could maybe use a token to, you know, make some property divisible, or some form of property divisible, or more recordable, or more verifiable, some type of information. Such as, for example, I'm working on something about real estate offers. So thinking about some way of providing value by tracking which offers are real, which ones are fake. And so you think about even micro use cases. I think there's so many projects that sort of attack big problems, which are great, but I think sometimes the smaller, more detailed, nuanced problems are better ways of going about it. And I think not even from a business standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint, think of how blockchain could affect your life, or how it could make something that you do every day better. And you'll kind of start like cultivate, you'll cultivate that knowledge, and then you'll say, oh, I see this, and then you'll kind of see, well, now I get the picture of blockchain in general, and I see how it applies to everything. Well, for us guys who are in it, we kind of see, we see possibilities every day with every little thing. We're like, oh, it's a potential. That's a potential blockchain app right there, you know. But I think for someone who's not immersed and they know that it's coming, they want to be involved. I think all it takes is one little spark, and it's one thing that could change your everyday life. Think of how maybe the blockchain affects that, you know, and then it kind of goes from there, and you'll kind of go down a road and pick up the knowledge.
All right. So thank you very much, Dameon. I think that's similar to my philosophy. Is always that start small but think big, right? Something that you can scale very fast. All right. So Dameon will be here. So our first intake is already full. So Dameon will be here conducting the first round until this Friday, and then the next week you will still be here, right? So we still got a couple more spots for Dameon's blockchain class for next week. So if you're interested, I'll post the link in the comment section, and then we look forward to see you guys. Now, thank you very much. Thank you, Dameon. All right. Thanks, man. Yeah.